This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12-powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
Fan.
It's a Friday, sort of a weekend edition of the Bumper to Bumper program. We are accepting each and every one of your texts. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686. Ben Goessling is scheduled to join us at 4:30, and Lavelle at 5:30. Yeah, if you look for online for Lavelle's, I think it would have been his previous column, not the most recent, the one you just alluded to. But the one before that, you might even be able to find a clue to what I'm referring to in the headline over the Lavelle column. When you find it, let me know, because I think it will then indeed come to you without much difficulty.
It's kind of hard to navigate the new Minnesota
Well, you're
Star
right
Tribune,
about that. Yeah, you almost have to do a search on Lavelle's name, which also is kind of a pain, because as you say, the stuff kind of gets buried pretty quickly, and I think they have the issue that a lot of by the way, speaking of AI, they have an AI, I think, component that makes a lot of these decisions for them, so to speak. Apparently, I think this was an accurate story, or is this also AI generated?
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it. Go ahead.
You found it.
Yep.
The Chicago Sun-Times online ran a lengthy piece that attempted to identify and reveal like 15 new books, that you might be interested in reading over your summer vacation.
Of course.
And the problem is none of the books are real. It was an AI-generated story, and it's sometimes AI goes bad. And in this case, the books did not exist. My guess is the Sun-Times, like most newspapers, is down to a skeletal level staff. There might be again, for a city the size of Chicago, they have maybe 25 staffers for everything. Stunning when you think about it. But so AI has its limits.
Was Jake Tapper's book on there? Is it on the list?
Very good question.
He's got a book.
That's a very good question. Burl Oaks chef guy wants to know if he's blocked. No, you are not blocked.
Not yet.
Not yet, at least. Yeah. So don't get.
Also, if you feel like you might be blocked, don't you think that in of itself should cause some self-reflection? I wonder if I'm blocked. I've never wondered if I'm blocked of something.
A guilty conscience?
Yeah, well, if you think you're blocked, then you know you probably fired off something that was going to make us mad. And not saying that we block everybody that makes us mad, but we do sometimes if it's cheap or personal or whatever it is. So if you're asking if you're blocked, I think you got to look in the mirror a little bit.
What is the headline on the piece you just found?
Neil, success of Becker's Holmgren, Minnesota franchises, emblematic of this state of basketball.
Unbelievable. Come on, man. Seriously. Give us a little of the credit. Now, sadly, Lavelle, I'm sure hearing the blowback I got when this whole debate started to rage, which really shouldn't have been a debate in the first place. He's got a long section within the piece, if you read it, in which he goes, basically, calm down, hockey fans. It's still the state of hockey. I'm not saying it isn't. We're having some fun here. And if you have to, like, in effect, apologize for your opinion, your commentary, then don't bother. So we will give him grief about that beginning at 5:30 tonight. But come on, state of basketball. That's what we were just talking about the week before.
That's true.
And it was the same subject. It was Beckers. It was Lynx. It was, at that point, the Wolves advancing to the conference finals with hopes of perhaps going even further than that.
Don't get your breezers in a bunch as you read this. One of the lines. That
was one of his lines. Yeah, I think he likes saying writing breezers.
Breezers in a bunch.
Breezers in a bunch is fine.
It's a good line.
That's fairly good.
Column hasn't aged very well. On the Wolves side of things, at least.
Who hasn't?
The column.
Oh, the column. Yeah,
state of basketball is plummeting right now.
Very true, Dave.
But again, if it's going to end in the Western Conference Finals, we do have to have a little bit of perspective.
I think,
as disappointing as these first two games have been,
I think the perspective may well depend on whether Oklahoma City then finishes the job in a big way, right? Because if Oklahoma City gets to the finals and loses, then I think people are going, oh, well, no, maybe we made them better than they are. Denver took them to 7.
You're right.
We're the only team that couldn't mess with them. So if they finish the job, which I think they have a great chance to, if they are, finish it here and then go to the finals, I think they would probably be favored in the finals.
Yes.
Then that will, I think, make it a little easier to have some measure of perspective. The question is going to be, what do you do to get out of the plateau you're on, which is a good plateau.
Right, Final Four.
But not where, obviously, you want to be. At some point, you want to build this thing up and kind of go from there.
Wolves awful from deep. SGA MVP. As a fan, I weep. OKC in a sweep. I just got that text from a friend of mine. Man, things have changed in the state of basketball.
Well, and how quick I warned Julius Randle of this a few days ago. I said, right now, you're on top of the world, man. People are discovering you and rediscovering you in a way, and they're thinking of you differently than they ever have before. But all it's going to take, because all eyes, you're down to 4. When you're down to two series, all eyes are on every minute of both those series. And by that definition, whatever you do well, whatever you do poorly is going to be magnified dramatically. So by the end of this series, people might be going back to the same old Randall. It's a nice little blip in the radar,
right?
But
water finds its level.
It's amazing how fast it can turn. Thunder season ticket holder here since the team moved. OKC native, basketball nut. Been listening to you guys the past couple of days on iHeart. Great show, really enjoying it. You guys are clearly pulling for the Wolves, but you tell it like it is. I get tired of listening to the same old stuff here. I like hearing things from your perspective. Keep up the good work. I'll continue to tune in. That's from area code 405. Is that Oklahoma City?
It must be.
405.
You write him back and ask him if there is a game 5, can I go with them? Because I can't buy tickets, because I'm up here.
I know. I think that might be possible. Actually,
I'll wear the shirt.
So, are you committed if the Wolves split the next 2, or especially if the Wolves counter?
If it's 2-2,
by holding serve.
If it's 2-2, I'm going. If it's 2-2, I have to go.
If it's 3, yeah, you probably do. If it's 3-1, not so much.
Probably not.
Yeah.
If it's 2-2, it's pivotal game 5.
It is literally pivotal game 5.
It's pivotal game 5. That's what got the whole thing started a year ago in Denver. I went for pivotal game 5 and saw the Joker just masterpiece. Maybe one of the best games I've ever seen in person. I don't know if anybody even remembers it because the Wolves went and won it in 7.
That's true.
But he was ridiculous and got to be in the locker room for Edwards saying, I'll see you in game 7.
Oh, that was
There was like 4 of us in there. I'm like, can I report that? That's funny. And I think McMenamin reported it. And it was great. It was a good bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's pivotal game 5, I'm guessing I'm making the drive to Oklahoma City because the flights are a little expensive to get to OKC.
State of basketball. That's unbelievable. The week after. We
know Lavelle listens to the show.
Yeah.
He can't even claim ignorance on. Well, I didn't listen to that day because he texts us almost every day about the show, which we appreciate.
Don't bother stealing the bit if you're going to apologize for it as you're doing it. right, in the column. Don't worry, hockey fans, you're safe. We all know that there's a lot more. It's like, you're not having fun with it if you feel like you. The idea is to ruffle feathers a little bit. Go a little bit contrarian on the bit. Speaking of that, we've got Ben Goessling at 4:30. As I mentioned, Lavelle will join at 5:30. Lots more text to get into on a number of, I think, very significant subjects. But first, it's bonus bucks time.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. The 4 o'clock keyword is happy. Go to KFAN.com and enter.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12-powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
Keyword happy.
Gaardy's got a piece of sound that I guess it would be worthy, I believe, of the calendar of calamity. It's an on this day in Minnesota sports history. So in this case, it's not only on this day, it was considered by most of us to be quite, one could say, calamitous. The year was 1994, and I think the sound we have is none other than Ernie Johnson.
It is.
Reporting on that calamity.
The owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves are selling the team to a group led by Top Rank of Louisiana, Bob Arum's boxing empire, for $152.5 million. And the team will move to New Orleans. All of that must be approved by the NBA, of course, but if and when that approval is given, the team will play next season at the Superdome while a new arena is built, so the NBA, it seems, will return to New Orleans.
Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the great time. We love you, Dan.
One of the most vivid memories I have of that occasion was eventually ending up at the newspaper to write a column about that pronouncement. The Wolves were leaving. It was, we all assumed that whether it should be done, that it was likely going to be done. And I tried to find it. I can't. But what I remember is, out of nowhere, eventually that night, I want to say it was fairly late, the NBA released a very terse, short statement. And I don't know if they credited it to David Stern or not. That part I don't remember. But it basically more than suggested not going to work. The message conveyed in the short statement from the league is nothing has been determined. There is no certainty that the Minnesota Timberwolves, that this sale will be approved or that the Wolves are going anywhere. And I got to tell you, it was very inspirational at the time, because until then, everybody was hangdog that another franchise, and this wasn't that long after the Stars, right? We're leaving. And the idea
within a year, probably.
Yeah, that we were going to lose another, regardless of whether you like basketball or not, another pro sports franchise. And everybody, including me, it completely changed what I wrote. It changed, as I recall it, from being sort of, thanks for the memories. Man, nothing ever really happened here. It's too bad this market wasn't really given a chance to do what it clearly, I think, is capable of being, a legitimate professional basketball market. It changed it to, whoa, wait. Let's not assume. Because at the time, David Stern ran that league like it was his league. I mean, he had technically a board of governors, right? But it was, well, if Stern says or sends out a message that seems to indicate a lot of stuff doesn't add up in this deal. No. Don't assume just because Harv and Marv want to sell it that it's going to be as simple as that. And then ultimately, there was like a three-member panel. It might have even been, again, from the Board of Governors, but there was a three-member NBA panel that rejected the sale. I want to say they rejected it on the basis of not believing the money was real. But a lot of it, as we came to find out from Stern, was, it's a good market. Oh, we're not giving up on this market. Not so fast. And to that extent, if you're a basketball fan, and maybe you at this point today, you go, well, they're down 2-0. They can go as far as I'm concerned. I think that's kind of short-sighted. If you care about, having a pro basketball team in your town, you can thank David Stern putting up the stop sign almost immediately upon that significant announcement.
So you remember being at the office? Well,
first, I think it was Chad. My recollection is the Chad Burrow Show did a show from the Cage, the original Cage.
Wow.
That day. Does that make sense? Chad would remember better than me.
Yeah.
And then I thought you said you were listening to it.
Yeah.
As we're talking about, We're basically doing Ode to a Dead basketball team.
Yes. Because I looked at it. So 31 years ago, May 23rd, if all of this happened on the same day, which I would presume that it did, I was at Pamela Park in Edina, Minnesota, in the parking lot, getting ready to go down the little hill for jug ball practice. I would have been 12, almost 12.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there being, as a member, as you know, of the original Timberwolves Breakfast Club, as well as Felton's Friends for Felton Spencer, devastated as an 11-year-old there that they were moving to New Orleans. So that's one of my vivid memories. Then going to practice, I got to be a gamer. Jug ball doesn't wait for anybody. The season must go on. Got to go to practice, even though my favorite basketball team has just been ripped right from my hands to New Orleans. And Target Center was cool back then. Had the neon lights in that entryway where the Lexus Club is now.
It was all kind of shiny and new.
It was great.
Yeah, at that point. And like I said, rarely in this town can I remember the degree to which one very short, terse statement, right? Just a statement, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, has had a greater impact on buoying the spirits of people saying, David Stern's coming to the rescue, man. Thank God for David Stern. And it never came close to happening for 100 different reasons. It never came close to happening. And to that extent, he was, trying to stand tall for, well, I'm sure it's on a business level, he was trying to stand tall, believing, we're going to find somebody locally here. This is too good a market. You guys didn't give it a chance. That's not fair. So don't assume anything. Because, Bob Arum was the guy, top rank, and that was scary too. You're thinking, well, Bob Arum, top rank, big name. He's got to have the money. He's got to have the resources. It's New Orleans. The assumption is almost automatic that he's as good as gone. And the whole tone went from funereal that night to buoyant that this ain't over yet. And it never, it never came to fruition, or it came close to that from that point forward. When I was trying to find the statement, I ended up this is weird how, search engines can work. This is from December of 2009, and that was the David Kahn era of Wolves basketball.
Oh, boy.
Do you have any recollection of this? I'll just read you. This is an Associated Press piece. The Timberwolves trade of backup point guard Jason Hart, I don't even remember that name.
Oh, my gosh, no.
Didn't exactly go as smoothly as planned. Hours after mistakenly letting a release leak on the team website announcing a trade with New Orleans that never came to fruition. By the way, by then, New Orleans had a team.
Yep.
The Timberwolves did ship Hart, after all, out to the Suns. And instead of ending up with Devin Brown from the Hornets, the Wolves landed Alondo Tucker, a second-round pick in cash consideration.
Wisconsin guy.
From Phoenix. Timberwolves president David Kahn was in talks with the Hornets about acquiring Brown, a 6'5 shooting guard. And the Hornets were looking to dump Brown's salary. Kahn went so far as to prepare a statement for the deal. Jason has been the consummate professional during his time with us, but it was a rare opportunity to add a proven player with three-point shooting capabilities that will help our offense. Just one problem. The deal was never done. The release somehow found its way into cyberspace, and the trade never materialized. So it was then removed from the site, and the Wolves eventually announced the deal with the Suns for Tucker. All I know is we were in conversations with teams, Wolves coach Kurt Rambis said. Ted Johnson, remember him?
I do.
Timberwolves senior VP for communications and chief marketing officer said the release on Brown appeared on a dead web page. Johnson explained that the team builds various web pages in anticipation of breaking news. The Wolves, he said, never activated or published the page on Brown, but a freelance writer managed to find the page during a Google search. And for some reason, the writer found the page, Johnson said. We just don't know how that happened yet. How good is that? I mean, I don't even remember that faux pas, that screw up.
No, but there's been so many.
There have been so many.
And I do think it's good perspective where all the fear and loathing.
As we lament the 0-2.
Down 2-0. We can't stop them. SGA's killing us. Randall got benched. Team could be in New Orleans right now.
612 guy says, I think I might have been Gaardsy's jug ball coach. You remember the name of your coach?
I don't. I might. It feels like there might have been a Todd.
612 guy, let us know if you're Todd. Did David Stern did Sid Hartman get into Stern's ear? No. He most assuredly did not have as much power in that regard as he wanted to think that he did. David Stern did not need to be terrified by Sid in order to do, in this case, what was absolutely the fair thing for a town, for a fan base that had never really been given a chance, right? Really had never been given a chance to prove what it is capable of being, which is an excellent professional basketball town. Somebody sent what they think is the press release with Stern, but I don't know how to click onto that.
I haven't seen it yet. Okay. I haven't seen the column you're thinking about. I do have a column though where I guess I can understand why Bob Stein didn't like you for a period of time.
Yeah, there was a lot of anger back in those days. There's no question about that.
Cajun Bob is what you...
Yeah, Cajun Bob Stein. Well, it's because he was working both ends at that time. He was still, the team president here, and he was the broker. He was the liaison for the new group as well, which was, I thought, at the time rather convenient and maybe a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Yes, that was the tenor of this column.
Yeah, for sure. We'll keep.
I'll keep looking. During Goessling, I'll try to find the one with the statement that you're talking about.
All right, if you got questions for Ben Goessling, because the pro football season never sleeps. We pretty much know that, and we did have some meetings here earlier in the week, so we may review some of that. We may look forward a little bit to a couple of other stories, including regarding the Vikings' young starting quarterback and who knows what else. 64686 is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12-powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
Excellent. Well, one of the questions on the docket today as we prepare to say hello to Ben Goessling, brought to you by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, is whether we should be emotional from a media standpoint about the fact that today I am reminded is the last day of a Talking Heads Media Jackal show, daily show, Monday through Friday on ESPN called Around the Horn. And Goessling, here's what's interesting to me about this particular subject. In the newspaper, because the people on Around the Horn, many of them are former newspaper people, in some cases still newspaper people. I think Tim Collishaw, is still at the Dallas Morning News, my old colleague there from many, many decades ago. And yet, historically, as you, I think, know, in the newspaper business, for many, many decades, there was this sort of resentment, like, oh, those shows are mindless. It's a bunch of idiots. Well, maybe not even idiots. Smart people who are reducing themselves to screaming at one another or to make whatever debate point they need to make. It's beneath what newspaper journalism is about, and we shouldn't in any way nurture it. We shouldn't in any way encourage it. So, as an Inkstein Retch yourself, what's the proper epithet of Around the Horn? Is it much ado about, okay, cute little show, we're happy for it, it's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing particularly special about it? Or have enough Inkstein Retches started doing it that the newspaper industry, what's left of it, the writers, are, less disdainful of what it allegedly represents?
Well, I think it certainly created opportunities for newspaper folks to get their names out there and build a brand. I think that for some people has been certainly advantageous. I guess I have felt like a lot of those shows, it kind of comes and goes, because I was a big fan of PTI back in the day, just certainly when I had more time to watch it. I liked what they would do between Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, and Around the Horn was kind of probably the derivative of that.
Yes.
Obviously, the producer that was on the show ends up moving on to Around the Horn, and that becomes the thing. But I guess I always felt like it was a step in a direction where it became about less of a conversation, less of a witty banter between the Wilbons and Kornheisers of the world, and more about kind of ping on people, scoring points. Obviously, it has been gamifying debate in sports. I don't know that is a good thing for the discourse overall. So, is it the only thing that's contributed to that? Certainly not. Social media has done as much or more for that, moving in that direction probably than Around the Horn has. But I guess I won't miss it from the sense that it sort of nudged things in that direction, and I'm not sure that's been a good thing for the discourse overall, even if people have been benefited from it in terms of the exposure it's given them.
That's not a bad way to put it. I think, what Wilbon and Kornheiser, and I'm looking up at them on the screen right now, represent is probably the most literate form of what you're talking about. And they could debate, they could argue, and they could occasionally raise their voice, but it wasn't going to necessarily be screaming for the sake of screaming. They weren't going to Skip Bayless it. It wasn't going to be that kind of approach. And what stood behind them, obviously, is just literally decades and decades of newspaper equity. Now, on the other hand, there are some fine people on Around the Horn that I have a lot of respect for, including, as I said, Tim Collishaw. Courtney Cronin has been on that show a lot, and we all are familiar with her work and how far she's come in such a short period of time, ascended to this big place with ESPN. So, I have no idea. Do you have any knowledge why the decision was made? Gaardsy, do you know? I don't know if it was we're not making any money, it's run its course.
I think it was just that.
That was just, okay.
It's probably expensive.
Maybe it was expensive, too. It probably was, because you got to pay people, whoever's going to be on there. I don't know that they were getting rich, but they weren't doing badly. Did you know anything about that, Ben, what the reason is behind the elimination of the show?
No, not from any sort of inside level. I think a lot of these things are probably, as they sit there and say, what do we want to put on the air? And I think ESPN has been in a bit of a cost-cutting posture here, a little bit, in the sense, well, I guess they've reallocated money. They put money where they've needed to do it. Certainly the rights fees for all of the games they want to broadcast have done nothing but go up. and cord cutting is still affecting the revenue. So I think a lot of these decisions become, well, if we have to pay to keep the leagues, which they do because they need to broadcast the games, and they also need access to the highlights. So that's one piece of it. And then if people are giving them fewer dollars every month, I'm sure a lot of these discussions become, well, what can we live without? And I think that would, the sensible read on it would be that probably had a lot to do with why they made the decision they did.
That makes some sense. If you have questions for Ben Goessling, hit the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line at the usual number 64686. Pro football never sleeps. You know that better than most because that's what you have to write about and cover. So it was a big week or early in the week in Eagan, Minnesota. Lovely weather that I'm sure encouraged the notion that we're going to get the draft very soon in Eagan as well. The weather couldn't have been any more miserable. Were you out there? How much were you out there? And how many complaints did you hear from the Jerry Joneses of the world about the miserable weather conditions?
I actually was not. I've been off most of this week. We had it well-staffed with Andrew Kramer and Emily Leiker, but so I don't know exactly the grousing about the weather. I'm sure there was some of it because there was, a lot of it. The owners have been here for these things enough that they, I think, had some decent May weather here in the past, but there was enough, I think, complaining about it during the Super Bowl when it was here just because it was cold that it's probably never far from anybody's talking points. When you're just in an elevator with somebody, I'm sure it comes up, and it's the, you know this as well as anybody, the national narrative about Minnesota. I remember this when I was covering baseball in DC. It was, well, doesn't it snow there like 11 months of the year? Like, no, actually it's very nice in the spring and summer. And you kind of hope that when people are here, they get a chance to see, oh yeah, I that actually is true. And a day like today would be a great example of that. But, it didn't work out that way this time. I think they've been here for enough of these things in the spring in recent years that I have to think the law of averages put them on a nice day or two in there. But yeah, this week was not necessarily good for that reputation as it's Minnesota struggles to maintain it.
By the way, update me. Are we on the list in one of the future years that has not yet been determined regarding hosting the draft, or is that way somewhere in the future if it's going to happen at all?
Well, they're not on the list now. They have certainly indicated to the league that they want to do it. I think that has been something they have talked about for a while, whether that would either be at U.S. Bank Stadium or the TCO Performance Center. I think, any of those would be options to do it. I think that's something they want to do, but they have not been in that mix lately. Just about everybody else in the NFC North, I think, has done it at one point or another. So I think at some point it'll come around, but the Super Bowl still is within the last 10 years. And I think they have actually been more recently talked about as a possible host for the Combine if that ever moves out of Indianapolis. I think the Twin Cities was one of the sites that was getting the most attention, along with, I think, Las Vegas and Arizona and maybe one other place. So, that may end up being the way it goes. Although I think every time that comes up, everybody in the NFL says, let's keep it where it is. We don't need to move it out of Indianapolis because it works well in Indianapolis. And as Gaardsy well knows, everything's better in Indy. So that may be the way it goes if the league ever, falls out of love with Indianapolis. Not that anyone ever really does, but that may be a better option. The Combine may be a better option than the draft is, at least at this point. I think there hasn't been as much steam about the draft as there's been about the Combine lately.
I believe the final count was that the teams that wanted the tush-push banned were 2 votes short of what they needed to get that accomplished. Which side of this were the Vikings on?
I don't know exactly. I haven't checked on it this week. I think they would have been in favor of. I don't even know. I think my guess would be that they were in favor of keeping it, and I don't think they would have been in the group that said you need to ban it because somebody's good at it. I think that's kind of been the discussion: is that do you ban something because one team has done it to a level that is so effective that people say we have to get rid of this. That is kind of where this becomes the fundamental question of, do you punish people for that? And the conversations I've had with people in the organization about it in the past, it's like, well, you can't just get rid of something. You can't legislate it out just because you don't like it. I mean, you have to figure out how to stop it or how to counter it or how to, make it effective enough for yourselves that you can do it. And, Vikings have tried it a few times over the years, probably most famously in that game against Cincinnati at the end of 2023, where it didn't work a couple of times. And I think Brandon Powell was the one doing the pushing, and they got stopped a couple of times and lost that game. So I think if you can do it, it's still an effective play. And I think a lot of the discussion becomes, this isn't something that needs to go away. You just got to figure out how to either make it your own or stop it. And I don't know that people are necessarily looking for ways to have the competition committee or save general managers and coaches from things that they should be able to do to counteract it.
By the way, Gaardsy's done some checking. In fact, and some of our texters have as well, because I think some of your colleagues that were there, because you said you were off, did write about it. And apparently the Vikings did vote. They were voting. They were in the block that wanted it banned.
Of the 22,
they needed that voting block needed 2 more votes to get the thing done. Yeah. And I get, that's always the comeback is, well, you're frustrated because you can't do it as well as the Eagles. For me, it's more aesthetically. I just don't like the play at all. And somebody had a few months ago when we were talking about this, I thought come up with the most logical way out of the box. If people said, well, you can't, well, why? You're just going to arbitrarily ban it? Why? And the comeback was, well, how about we do this? How about we say behind the line of scrimmage, at no place, at quarterback sneak or any other place, can one offensive player help assist another by pushing him forward? Past the line of scrimmage, have at it. Do whatever you want to do. Receivers 9 yards downfield, and the 2 linemen want to sprint up and carry him another 12 yards. That's I think it's illegal to actually carry him, but to push him, then you can do that. That's what I liked. I don't know if there's any legal basis upon which to do it, but I was willing to endorse that concept. Behind the line, no pushing, no shoving, no nothing. Pass the line of scrimmage, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think that makes a little more sense. I mean, the question of is it a football play has been a lot of the discussion, and that gets into a lot of the aesthetics of it. It does become, a little bit of it almost seems like a little bit of an end around on what a football play would typically look like. We need to get a yard, let's line up and get it. I mean, a quarterback sneak is fairly effective even without the pushing. I mean, that has been a high percentage way to get a yard over the years. If you get enough push from your offensive line and the quarterback is trying to find a hole behind that without being pushed by a teammate or assisted by a teammate. I think the percentage rates on that in terms of being a successful play have been awfully high as it is. And that may be enough to get it done. But yeah, it is, this question of whether this is a play that is in the spirit and the nature of the way football is supposed to be played is, I think, kind of the ongoing question. And for now, it's going to stay, and we'll see if that changes here at some point, if there's a couple more teams that decide, no, we want this out. But yeah, it is, it's become certainly a thing that's part of the Eagles brand and part of the province of what the Eagles do. And I think either if it's going to stay, people have to figure out a way to stop it or figure out how to do it well enough that it doesn't become this massive advantage for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. But again, you got to have the right number of votes, which we didn't. And then apparently I think it was the Lions proposal, same reason. They withdrew their proposal again because they didn't have the votes on the idea of doing away with the winning of a division, regardless of your record, guaranteeing either a bye or at least home one game at home. I get, the Vikings could be sensitive to that issue on the basis of the way they were punished despite their gaudy record a year ago. But to me, if you're going to have divisions, I'm willing to accept that occasionally something dorky and goofy is going to happen like what took place last year with the purple.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things that it was an issue that was burning at the front of the conversation at the end of the season because one of those two teams was going to end up playing on the road despite winning 14 games. And I would imagine the Lions probably started having that conversation in their building when they're going through this of, we're going to be a 14-win team, and it's possible just because of one game that we're starting on the road against a 10-win team. So I see that, but I asked Mark Wilf about this at the owners' meetings, and even he said at the time, we have been in favor of division play. We generally think that's been a good way to decide things. So, I mean, the owner of the team that was most harmed by the current rules was saying, we think the current rules are probably actually a pretty good way to go. So when you have that, I don't think there was going to be enough momentum to change anything. And the league certainly has been very much in favor of division play. I mean, all of the Week 18 games being division games, the backloaded schedules of lots of division matchups. The league wants to lean into the rivalries. They want to lean into the high-stakes games as best they can. They know it's good for ratings. They know it's good for the product. It makes it so that you have audiences that are going to probably pretty consistently be there. So I think there's enough appreciation for that even if you do get one of these fluky things, so this is not going to be something that happens every year. I think this was a unique situation, and probably in part because all of those teams, the Lions, Vikings, and Packers, benefited from the fact that they were playing the AFC South and they were able to beat up on all four of those teams. That's not going to happen every single year. So do you change an entire system because it's something that was probably a little bit of an aberration? I never thought that was going to be something that worked or had enough momentum to pass. And I think there's enough belief in the divisions as a general concept that it will take a lot to get the league to move off of that viewpoint of how to do things.
I believe Sunday is the 20-year anniversary of the date upon which the Minnesota Vikings changed ownership to the Wilf family. I guess I should say that's when it was approved by the NFL owners at the spring league meeting.
Thank you, everybody, for coming here.
So that's a good chunk of time, right? We have. So what's the to this point? What comes to mind regarding the Wilf's legacy here, their influence, the Wilkes period of Minnesota Vikings history?
Well, I think a lot of it, I mean, you start with the stadium, and I wrote about this in right at the end of the season, talked with the Wilfs, spent some time with them, talking about looking back at 20 years, and the first thing everybody brought up was the fact that the stadium got done. I mean, that they were the group after Red McCombs, I think, got a lot of frustration that the stadium didn't get done, decided to sell the team. The Wilfs were the ones that were able to get it done, and I remember talking to Richard Davis at the time, and he said, they never spoke the threat of moving the team, but I remember there was a funding bill that got turned down, and the committee that was trying to get this done, and Richard Davis was part of that, said, do we bring in Roger Goodell or not? And there was even this kind of discussion of how much do you want to kind of invoke the nuclear option, so to speak, and everybody knew that LA was going to be a possibility if this didn't get done. It didn't really require anybody to say it out loud just because it was such an obvious place to go and such an obvious threat if it didn't happen. So the fact that it got done, the fact that the stadium got built, that it has been paid off, kind of because these funding sources, the pull tabs thing became as effective as it did, and then they got the secondary source when they were worried about the pull tabs. I think that's a big part of it. I think certainly the practice facility has become a big part of it. I mean, the investments in the team, that's the thing that you hear people in the organization talk about first all the time, is that the Wilfs are not shy about spending whatever it will take to have a organization that has everything it needs. And I think the thing that comes with that is saying you have no excuses. There's no way that you don't have everything you need to do your job. So you can kind of implicitly say that it's expected that you're going to be able to win in this situation because there is no lack of resources. There's no reason that this team can't get it done. So the investments have been impressive. They've spent to have a team that wins. They spend cash over the cap every year. But at some point, I mean, the thing that they'll say, and they've said this over and over, that you don't have is a Super Bowl and even a trip to a Super Bowl. They certainly have been part of some of those NFC Championship game heartbreaks like previous ownership groups have. But I think that's the thing that will take them. It will require that. It will require a Super Bowl appearance or a championship for them to be seen as these vanguards of the franchise. I think there's a lot of people, and I remember talking to them about this and hearing from people saying, ask them if they want to buy a baseball team. I asked Mark Wolf that, and he said, we're not really interested in that right now. We're focused on the Vikings, and they've got MLS holdings and those kinds of things. But the fact that people are saying, please have the Wilfs buy the Twins is a pretty big change from where they were when they bought the team initially. So I think a lot of the perception of them has changed, but it will take winning or at least getting to a Super Bowl before they are kind of viewed as this unqualified success story. I think that's the thing that has to happen for that reputation to kind of be cemented.
Why, finally, is the NFL so interested in, grabbing onto this, we're going to be represented in Olympic flag football? Is it simply it's the Olympics and, not that we need a lot of help with our brand, but we might as well lock in wherever we can, wherever we think we can, become even more popular than we already are? Because I'm not all that fascinated by the connection or interest in flag football as an Olympic sport. I don't think Gaardsy, he's even less interested than me. Why is the league interested enough to go to the, to the lengths that it seems to regarding opening the door to NFL players, potentially, snapping an Achilles playing flag football?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if anybody remembers Robert Edwards, his rookie year, it was a Pro Bowl event where they're playing flag football. He tore so many ligaments in his knees. I think he played one more year and he was never really the same. Right. So there is that risk, but I think the league's general interest in it is twofold. And we've seen this happen locally. And the Vikings, we just had a great story by Cassidy Hedesheimer on this today about the Vikings investment in flag football in Minnesota. I think they've spent, $600,000 or something like that, getting that off the ground, particularly in Minneapolis, where my kids go to school and my daughter's elementary school or middle school, I should say, has a flag football team. So it's been, I think, a way to create a sport where girls and women can participate in a way that they probably wouldn't if it's tackle football. So the league has interest in that because the more people you have playing the sport, the more people you have that may grow up to be fans of the sport. It's no different than what you've seen NHL teams do in some of the Sun Belt markets where the Dallas Stars or the Arizona Coyotes are really involved in saying, let's get a youth program off the ground, because when these players grow up to be adults, they love the sport, they buy tickets. So I think it's some of that, and I think it's also this international footprint that the league is very much trying to grow. I think Peter O'Reilly talked about that a little bit earlier this week, that flag football can be a way that kind of ties hand in hand with the league's efforts to play games internationally, with the efforts to kind of have marketing rights for all of these teams in different countries. There is very much interest in growing the footprint of the NFL and of American football in general around the globe. And I think it's a thought of, if you can have flag football teams, if this becomes something that the Olympics of the whole world watches every 4 years, maybe you start to say, hey, where can I find this on a more regular basis? And, something that's a little bit of a different form. But I think a lot of it is those things, because the league wants to keep growing. The league certainly knows that it has the questions of safety and of concussions and CTE and all of these things that have sort of threatened the future of the game. Are people going to let their kids play? I mean, all of these questions are very much front burner topics for the league and have been for a long time. So I think they see flag football as an answer to that, while also providing a way to put women and folks internationally in position to interact with their brand more often. So I think that's a lot of why the investment has been there, because they see it as a solution to a number of big questions at a time where the future of the game, I think, is something that keeps Roger Goodell and people in the league office talking quite a bit about how this is going to play out.
Thanks for the time, as always, sir. We appreciate you, Ben. We'll chat next week.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, man. Ben Goessling, brought to you by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Lavelle will get him going on Stealing Our Material at 5:30. We've got Top 5 at 5 coming up. I'm sure Gaardsy will have some good nuggets from the Wolves-Oklahoma City series, maybe a little preview of the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 2 is scheduled for tonight. He'll kind of set the table for your suddenly red-hot Minnesota Twins as well, and who knows what else. Top 5 is next.
Okay, have you heard about this? Last year, Degree changed the formula for their Cool Rush deodorant. Their fans rebelled and wanted the old scent back. And Degree listened. That doesn't happen often.
They admitted that they effed up and are bringing the original Cool Rush scent back. And it's exactly how you remember it. Cool, crisp, and fresh. There's a reason it's the #1 men's antiperspirant, and it's back in Walmart, Target, and other stores for under $4.
So try it and see what the fuss is about. Head to your local stores to try the OG Cool Rush for yourself.
Wasabi Technologies is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from those old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, Wasabi is driving innovation in data storage, all for up to 80% less than those other guys. Try them out for free at wasabi.com.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12-powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.